house. All right. So, as soon as this thing kicks into gear here. Oh, it is recording. Yeah. I try to change things up. All right. So I want you, before we start talking about motivation, I want you to think about this for just a second. I want you to think about how your life would be different if you woke up tomorrow and found out that some distant relative of yours died and left you $10 million. How would your life change? Okay. If you were planning on going to college to get a good job so that you could make a lot of money, would you still do that? Just 10 more dogs? Are you buying dogs $1 million a piece? Because you're overpaying. Yeah. Okay. Is money the only thing that motivates you? Okay. Very few people ever attain great wealth. Bill Gates was an obvious exception. He is one of the world's richest men. Gates, who was the founder of Microsoft, could never hope to spend all of the wealth that he has acquired. Yet, he continues to be motivated to work and develop new ideas. Gates once remarked in an interview that he sees life as a continual process of challenge and achievement. As a matter of fact, he hasn't worked for Microsoft in probably 20 years. And yet he still has a crap ton of cash. As a matter of fact, he wakes up every day and finds new ways of spending his money. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation spends millions of dollars every single year to try to end malaria. They buy mosquito netting for people in areas prone to malaria. They buy malarial medication for those same people. They are trying to eradicate malaria as a disease that affects human beings. And he spends millions and millions of dollars on that every single day, and yet still is extremely wealthy. But if money is something that is the only thing that motivates you, why is he doing this? Who cares? Okay. Basically, yeah. He can spend, if he spent $1 million a day, every day, he could do that for, I think it's like 3,000 years or something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous, the amount of money that he's got. Yeah. Yeah. That's the crazy part. And he's not even the richest person anymore. He's been long surpassed by people like Warren Buffett and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Okay. Jeff Bezos could give every single person who works for Amazon like $150,000 cash tomorrow and still be the second richest person in the world. And it would set him back less than a year in wealth acquiring. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Elon Musk is the guy who does Tesla and SpaceX and all that kind of stuff. He's ultra wealthy. And yeah, it's just like, seriously? He could spend millions of dollars every single day and not ever spend all of his money. Anyway, so Gates says that he does this because he sees life as a continual process of challenge and achievement. Okay. For example, he had the challenge of designing a microchip so very small that it could be injected into you when you get the COVID vaccine. I'm just kidding. He doesn't need to do that because you're already carrying a tracking device with you. Okay. So motives that we are going to be talking about are needs, wants, interests, and desires that propel people in certain directions. We are going to be examining what drives human behavior. We're going to look at several different theories that try to explain what drove people to do something. We're also going to investigate human emotions during this next 3 weeks. So be ready. All right. The first organized theory of motivation came in the 1890s with American psychologist William James. William James created the instinct theory of motivation, which basically said we do things because we have an inborn instinct to do it. Okay. He identified 37 different instincts. Okay. Among those included cleanliness, curiosity, parental love, sociability, sympathy, and jealousy. Okay. Along with 31 other instincts. He believed that these instincts provided the basis of human behavior. So basically, why did you do that? Well, because you have the jealousy instinct and the curiosity instinct. That's why you wanted to find out whether or not your boyfriend was cheating on you. You were jealous of him and you are curious. That's why you did that. But here's the problem. By 1900, psychologists had expanded the lists of instincts to over 10,000 different instincts. Now, today, we understand that instincts are incredibly rare, and we don't have very many of them. An instinct is something that is inherited, innate, and not subject to reason. One of the best examples that I can think of an instinct comes from the animal world. Salmon. Salmon are fish, okay? They are born in little rivers and creeks, way up in like the mountains, okay? Close. When they grow, they eventually leave those rivers. They go downriver all the way to the ocean, where they spend the majority of their lives, 5 or 6 years, eating everything in the ocean that they possibly can. And then one day, something clicks in them of, I got to go make babies. So instead of having the children in the ocean, what these salmon do is they instinctually go back to their home rivers, the rivers where they were born, where they lay their eggs and then die. Okay. Now, they're swimming upstream. So this is a very, very difficult journey. This isn't something that's very easy to do. Okay. And they have to like jump over obstacles. So if there's a slight waterfall, they have to jump over it. You can watch salmon do that all the time. It's absolutely insane. Okay. Why do they do that? Well, it's inherited. Okay. They got it from their parents. It is innate, meaning it was there at birth, just waiting to happen. And it's not subject to reason. You can't reason with the fish and go, why don't you just, go with the easy river? Okay. This one's a lot easier. You don't have to jump very much. No, that's not the river I want to get to. Okay. So salmon have that instinct. And we as humans have very, very few of these instincts. Okay. Most of them are reflexes that we eventually lose once we learn other ways of doing things. For example, when we talked about the sucking reflex or the grasping reflex that little babies have, those are instincts. The instincts that these psychologists created, these lists upon lists upon lists, did nothing except label a behavior. So if you said, well, why am I so clean? Why do I clean everything all the time? The psychologist would just look at you and go, that's because you have the cleanliness instinct. That's not an explanation of the behavior. You're just telling me that I'm clean. Okay? So this is something that is going to fall out of favor very, very quickly. Okay. Some instincts that psychologists today believe that we have, some believe that facial expressions are actually instinctual. Okay. Newborns or babies will smile. Who taught them that that was a good thing? Okay. When we talk about emotions, we'll talk about facial expressions, and we'll talk about how there's only a few of them, and the few of them are pretty much universal. Like everywhere around the world, everyone kind of has the same set of facial expressions that mean the same thing. You're never going to go to, Japan and find out that smiling at somebody is actually, like looking disgusted at them, ew. But in China or Japan, it's, hey, that's disgusting. That's not how that works. Disgust is the same here as it is there, at least facial expression wise. Evolutionary psychologists believe that these behaviors that we've got that keep us going, looking for food when hungry, looking for water when thirsty, keeping warm and such, are there because our ancestors did that and survived. Those behaviors are there because of the fact that your ancestors did that, because the ones that didn't, they died and didn't have kids. So they didn't pass on when you're hungry, you should eat. Freud also believed that we had instincts, but this is Freud. So again, take it with a grain of salt. He believed we had two different types of instincts. The first were life instincts, things that kept us going, kept us moving, kept us alive. And he called those eros. Okay, these are survival instincts. Okay, if somebody is shooting a gun at you, you're probably going to duck out of the way. That's eros, according to Freud. He also believed that we had a death instinct, which he called thanatos. Okay, this is related to suicidal tendencies or just unconsciously giving up the wanting to live. Okay, for example, people who smoke, they know it's bad for them, they know it will kill them, and yet they're going to light another one up because thanatos, the death instinct. Soldiers going off to war, they are marching off to give up their right to life. Yes, it's almost like Thanos and Thanatos are related. Oh my God, he's got the death instinct. You know what would have been funnier is if when he did the snap, suddenly half the class left the meeting. That would have been hilarious. Y'all got to get on that, okay? Oh, thank God, she's gone. Okay, now. Anyway, Freud also believed that our life instincts and our death instincts live within what he called our id. And that's going to be part of personality that we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. He believed that the two primary instincts that live within that id are based on two different behaviors, sex and aggression. Okay, so those two behaviors are what pushes us to both want to continue to live and want to give up the struggle of life. It's really crazy. Just remember that it's Freud. Don't put too much thing in there, because everything has to do with sex and aggression with him. We'll talk more about that when we get to Freudian personality. Yes. Yes. As I said at the beginning of the year, Freud's a freak 7 days of the week. Anyway. So after psychologists had expanded the instinct theory to 10,000 instincts, and we all just kind of went, this is ridiculous. No, we needed another explanation as to what motivates people's behavior. And that is this. And that is based on evolutionary theory. Now, evolutionary psychology has always kind of been around, okay? It's been kind of below the surface as an explanation for things that we just don't have an explanation for. And there's no way to prove them wrong, but there's also no way to prove them correct. But what they say makes sense. Now, evolutionary psychologists like David Buss believe that evolution determines human motives because natural selection favors behaviors that maximize reproduction. And for example, why are people afraid of things? Well, think about the things that are typical fears and phobias. Okay, fear of snakes, fear of spiders, fear of bears. The reason that you have a fear of George Lopez, okay, you might have one of those phobias. Okay, if you fear snakes, the reason the reason that you do is probably because you come from a long line of people who were afraid of snakes. Okay, I want you to imagine two cave people sitting in a cave. There's a snake in between them. One of them has the reaction of, I don't think I want to go near that thing. And the other one goes, ooh, let's look at this, and goes over there and touches it. The snake whips around, bites them on the arm, and they die. That person's genetics didn't get passed on to the next generation. The person who was afraid of the snake does. Okay, they do have children, and those children also are afraid of snakes, and their children, and so on and so on. And that's what kept them away from dying. People who are afraid of heights, the ancestors that weren't afraid of heights and fell off the cliff and died when they hit the bottom, guess what? They didn't have kids. Those people just never existed. You are the descendant of all of the fears that kept your ancestors alive. Okay? Yeah, that one I don't get. Georgophobia. I'm not sure. I mean, I can understand not appreciating his comedy, but I don't know why I'd be afraid of him personally. You'll have to explain that someday. Anyway, but this also can be explained as to what people are looking for in a potential mate. Okay? Now, evolutionary psychologists did a study, and they interviewed over 10,000 men and women from 33 different countries on 6 different continents. Okay, so they went to all different parts of the world to find out information about what people are looking for in a potential mate. Okay, for men are looking for youth and good health. That's what they're looking for in a potential mate. Evolutionary psychologists explain this as men want to maximize their reproduction. So they need to have a female who is going to be able to have many children. Okay, a good example of this, if you look at advertisements or you look at the covers of fashion magazines, you don't see a lot of sick elderly women smoking cigarettes on the cover of Vogue. That's not what you're going to see. You're going to see young, attractive, healthy-looking people. And if they don't look healthy, we'll airbrush them until they do look healthy. We'll brighten their teeth. We'll whiten their eyes. We'll smooth out their skin. We'll take away any and all blemishes. And this is all subconscious, according to evolutionary psychologists. Okay? Yes, they do want that many kids. That's the subconscious. You're not actually consciously going, ooh, she's got childbearing hips. But you might go, ooh, she got a big old ass. Okay. Yeah. What does that makeup do? It makes them look healthier. Blush on the cheeks, red lips, eyes that are bright. Yeah. It's all about making you look healthier than you might actually be. Okay. Now, this is all subconscious. Okay. I'm not saying that you're going out there going, I want to have like 17 kids. No. And you might not want any kids. But why are we attracted to what we are attracted to? Evolution says because being young and healthy will provide many children. On the flip side, what are women looking for in a potential mate? Women are looking for someone a little more mature and a little wealthy. They're looking for someone who can provide for their kids. Okay? I am looking for an old rich man. Exactly. You don't need to have somebody who can do that, because men can have children well into their 70s, which is gross. But it's a thing. So you don't need youth. You just need someone who can provide for the children once they are born. Okay? Which is why, gentlemen, I've got some bad news. You're going to enter into a little bit of a dry spell. Because when you're a freshman in college, the older women don't want you because you're too immature. And the women your age also don't want you because you're too immature. The only person who's going to want you because you are super more mature than they are girls in high school. And that's creepy and weird, and don't do that. Okay. Then by the time you get to your senior year, your junior or senior year, when you become one of those upperclassmen, that's when you'll start being able to date again, but you're going to have to go after those freshman girls, which is weird and creepy. But still, that's what you're going to probably end up having to do. By the way, if you have to make a decision about what to buy, a tattoo or a car, go with the car. You can do far more with a car than you can with a tattoo. Just a little tip. Yeah, if you've got transportation, the world is your oyster. Not sure who that's pointed to. I'm going to assume not me. Anyway, so evolutionarily speaking, we do things to maximize our possibility of reproduction. Both men and women are doing both of those things. Men want someone who is young and healthy. Women want someone who is mature and wealthy. Okay, that is the evolutionary. That is the explanation of that, evolutionarily speaking. Now, again, can we prove it? No. Can we disprove it? No. It makes sense when you think about it, but you can't really say definitively that that's the way things are, because it's impossible. So we need another theory that is going to explain why people do things. That brings us to drive reduction theory. Now, drive reduction theory is very, very simple. It was developed by a psychologist named Clark Hull. Probably, yeah. Yeah, sorry, Angel. Clark Hull developed this theory in the 1950s, and it basically says that we are subject to behavior, and that behavior comes from drives. Something drives us to do that. He believed that humans have biological needs that demand satisfaction. Whether it's the need for food or water or sleep, you have a biological need for those things. And when you are deprived of those things, your body goes into a state of need. And that need is a bodily tension that doesn't feel good. Okay? For example, some of you are probably hungry right now. You probably haven't eaten in 5 minutes, and you're probably kind of a little bit hungry. How does that feel? How does it feel to be hungry? Okay, let me rephrase that. Some of you are probably not hungry right now, but you've been hungry at some point in your life. How does it feel to be hungry? Is it pleasant or is it unpleasant? Jesus.
I wish to murder someone for food. There we go.
So not pleasant.
You
Okay.
should say it in the caveman voice, Alexa.
Ooh, me want food. What do we think, Layla?
Anyway,
Yeah.
Let's go.
anyway, the fact is that people don't like being hungry. They don't like being thirsty. I mean, I've got a glass of water right here because I'm a little bit thirsty because it's a little warm in here. It's a little warm, and so I'm sweating a little bit because I'm talking a lot and I'm being animated, so it's not pleasant. I don't like it. But I am drinking things because I don't want to be thirsty. If you're tired, it's unpleasant. That is what we call a state of need. And when we are in a state of need, we seek out something that is going to reduce that feeling and bring you back to what Hull called homeostasis, which is basically kind of a balanced area of your physiological body so that you don't feel exhausted and hungry and thirsty all the time. Okay, so this state of bodily tension that you find yourself in gives rise to drives, and those drives are the motivators that make you eat something or drink something or fall asleep, whatever it happens to be. Okay. Yeah. I know how that goes. Believe me, I do. But that's why we do things according to drive reduction theory. We do it to release the tension that we feel when we get hungry or thirsty or tired or thirsty. Yeah, that too. It's another one of those drives. Now, he believed that we had primary drives and we also have secondary drives. Primary drives are physiological in nature, things like food, water, warmth, sexual desire, things like that, things that are physiological needs. We also had secondary drives, which are psychological in nature, and they arise from things like you don't need money to live. You don't need money. You just need food and water and shelter. But those things are easier to obtain with money. Okay, you don't have money, it's really hard to obtain those things. Okay, you can't get something to eat when you're hungry. You can't get something to drink when you're thirsty. You can't find companionship when you're thirsty in certain counties in Nevada. Okay, you need money in order to be able to make those transactions happen. So they become secondary drives in themselves, but they are not necessary for your survival. Kind of, yes. A secondary need is more of a want because those wants allow you to get what you need. Yes, that would be a fair way of explaining that, yes. Okay, so as we get out of homeostasis, as you do things and your blood sugar drops, and suddenly that gives rise to, oh, I don't feel good. I don't like this. You're hungry. So what are you going to do? You're going to push yourself to get something to eat. And once you eat, you get back to that homeostasis and you feel good again. And that's the entire point of drive reduction theory. It brings you back to that middle ground where you can succeed. Sorry. But this doesn't explain everything. Okay. And this entire theory was basically dismantled by a single experiment. And that is the experiment that was done by Harry Harlow. And basically what they did was they wanted to find out if it really was drives that attached us to who we wanted to be around. Because according to drive reduction theory, you're attached to your parents because that's where the food comes from. Okay. The only reason why you care a damn about your parents is because that's where they fed you. Okay. And basically, if a stranger in a windowless van were to wave a candy bar in front of your face, you just follow them to the ends of the earth because food. Okay. Don't get into the windowless van. Anyway, so Harlow wanted to challenge this idea because he didn't believe that was the case. And so what he did was he created an experiment where he took a rhesus monkey, a little tiny baby rhesus monkey, away from its mother right after birth. And they gave that monkey the choice between two different surrogate mothers. One surrogate mother, the one on the left, was made out of chicken wire and had a feeding bottle attached to it. The other mother was made of terry cloth. So it was basically a towel, okay? But didn't have any food attached to it. Both of them were heated, so it wasn't that one was cold and one was warm. Both were the same temperature. One had food, one did not. And what they found was that the rhesus monkey attached itself to the monkey that was soft and not the chicken wire one with the food. So that basically took drive reduction theory and said, nope, that's not a thing. Okay. This is one of the biggest experiments in psychology's existence, right? So this is one of those things that really shows when a theory is just flat out wrong. Okay. So the intrinsic desire to be with the one that was soft as opposed to the one that was made of wire, Harlow described as what he called contact comfort. We want contact comfort with another creature. Okay. We want the cuddle time that we have with our parents. Okay. And it's especially important in young children to have that time where you're being held and cared for. That's what's building the connection, not the food. Okay. So we need another explanation. Another problem with drive reduction theory is, why do people jump out of airplanes with a parachute attached to their back? What drive are they reducing when they do that? That makes no sense whatsoever. Okay? There is no intrinsic need to jump out of an airplane and plummet to the ground. Well, we're going to come to arousal theory. Now, arousal theory is talking about not arousal. We're talking about kind of keeping your brain active. And the idea behind arousal theory is that we want to keep our brain active to a certain level. Okay. The more active that we want it, the more thrills that we're going to seek out. Okay. And when we get to a point where our brain is below where we want it to be, activity-wise, we will seek out something to do. It kind of explains what boredom is. Why are we bored? Well, we're bored because we are below the threshold of activity that we want to be at. And it also helps to explain why some people have a very high threshold and some people have a very low threshold. You know, why is it okay for some people to just stare at a wall for several hours when other people are, you know, jumping out of airplanes or tying a rubber band to your ankles and jumping off a bridge? Okay. We all have different levels of arousal that we want to be at. Okay. Well, we'll get, yes, you're basically explaining it. So yes. So we do things to alleviate the tension that we get when we are under aroused. When we are under aroused, we seek out different behaviors. Many of these behaviors can actually be harmful. Going for mountain climbing, dangerous. Skydiving, dangerous. Bungee jumping, dangerous. And yet people do it every single day. Some psychologists believe that there is a link between arousal and certain personality types. I don't know how much I agree or disagree with that, but that's kind of what they're looking at. There are people who are more susceptible to boredom, and those people tend to be sensation seekers. I am not one of those people. I am not looking to endanger my life just to alleviate my boredom. I have something to alleviate my boredom. It's my phone. I can play a game that I've been playing for the last several years, and still, I'm fine. I just need to play my game. We're good. Thanks. But before, Candy Crush. Oh, God. I started Candy Crush over again because it lost my information. Actually got way further than I did the first time. I was pretty crazy. Not a chance in hell. Yeah, I also play The Simpsons. The Simpsons Tapped Out. Been playing that one for, geez, I don't even know how long. 7, 8 years. It's been a long time. Been crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I don't get bored very easily. I'm fine with just, plunking myself down on the couch and watching TV. But when we do get under aroused, we do seek out things to alleviate that boredom. I can remember when I was a kid. Oh my God. Life before smartphones and the internet. God, it sucked. I remember waiting in line with my mother when I was a kid. Just waiting and waiting and waiting and having nothing to do, and just staring at the four walls because there was literally nothing else I could do. Or, reading the headlines on the Inquirer and stuff like that, just because that was how bored I was. I was willing to read. Anyway, you seek out things to do, and there are people who do need to have that little extra boost to get them up to that point. Yeah, well, a lot of that is, go with me for a second here. I like turtles. No. The reason that a lot of young people weren't going outside has nothing to do with technology. It has everything to do with parents who are freaked out about letting their children outside. When I was a kid, you as a child, you were expected to leave the house and be back when it was dark. Just do whatever the hell you want to do. Bye. And now the idea that would be something that would happen is highly unheard of. And as a matter of fact, some people even think of that as child abuse. So yeah, I don't know if I would blame technology. I think technology has made it easier for parents to say, no, you can't go outside and play. It's dangerous out there. You might die. Here's a PS4. Go to town. I think it's just a lot easier that way to keep an eye on your children, because it's not gotten any more dangerous or less dangerous for kids, but people have just flipped out and lost their damn minds. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's really, really unfortunate, but teenagers used to be trusted to just figure things out, and now you're not, which means you're also not getting a lot of those life skills of how do I fix this problem, things like that. So it's really unfortunate. Like back in the 1980s, talk to some of the other teachers that were, teenagers in the 1980s. They'll tell you that they went to the mall every day after school and they just hung out there, just wandering the mall. What did you do there? Nothing. We just hung out. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, it is. It is kind of a, well, you want me to go do something outside. This is something outside. Will you let me do it? No. So you just want me to stare at the walls? I mean, I could do that, but I'm going to complain the entire time. Yeah. They ultimately, they made poor choices, but that's part of being a kid. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to get yourself into trouble. And yeah, a lot of people are, trying to keep that from happening. I understand that. I don't want my daughter to make stupid decisions. I want to keep my daughter safe, but I also want her to be independent. I want her to be her own person. I don't want to have to be watching over her until the day she graduates from college. That's ridiculous. I'm raising a person, not a child. That's what I have to keep reminding myself. I'm raising a human being, not a child. Sometimes people forget that. Yeah, that's just them wanting to control your time without actually having to control your time. Well, if you're bored, you can always clean. No, I want to reduce my boredom, not increase it. Plus, I didn't make that mess, so yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately, it's not going to work, not until you're out of the house. So go to college, kids. Go to college. All right. All right. The last thing that I want to talk about is how we organize what motivates us to do things. Because an important humanist psychologist named Abraham Maslow figured out that we actually organize our motives to do things hierarchically. Now, humanistic psychology, we haven't talked about at all realistically, and we won't talk about it in any kind of depth or detail until our next unit on personality. That's where the humanists kind of come into a little bit more of psychology. But there's a little bit here. So basically, humanism was an attempt at bringing the humanity back into psychology. Psychology was very dehumanizing. For example, most people, when they when they looked to motives, looked to Freud or Skinner. Okay, they looked to Freud, and Freud said, "You have no control over what you do or what you believe. It's all because of your unconscious mind. So that's what's in control." And it basically stripped away the humanity out of decision making and things that we do. On the other hand, Skinner and his behaviorism said, no, it's not. Yeah, it's crazy talk. It's not that. Instead, what it is reinforcements and punishments. That's what's controlling your behavior. So it's not me as a human being in control anymore. It's these outside things that I have no control over. And the humanists wanted to bring back humanity into the field of psychology. And like I said, we'll talk more about humanism when we talk about personality in our next unit. But in this case, we need to talk about humanism with regard to motivation. And Abraham Maslow is the guy who created this hierarchy of needs. Now, you may have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs at some point in your past. That's great. For those of you who have never heard of this before, I'm going to use a particular example to kind of prove that this is how this is organized. Now, when we talk about a hierarchy, we're talking about things organized in like a pyramid. There's a few things on the top and a lot of stuff on the bottom, okay? And that's how Maslow organized these motivational needs, okay? At the bottom of the pyramid, the first level, we have physiological needs. Now, let's say that your goal is to get a high grade in this class. Let's say that's your ultimate goal. You want to get a high grade. Great. How do we ensure that you have the best chance of getting to that point? Well, first, you need to satisfy your physiological needs. Hunger, thirst, sleep, warmth, shelter, all of these things are physiological needs that our body has to have. And if we don't have it, what are the chances that you're going to get to that goal that you've set for yourself? Probably nothing. Okay, you probably have a 0% chance of getting there. Why? Because think about it. If you're hungry and you haven't eaten in 3 weeks, do you care about this class in the slightest? Do you care about Maslow's hierarchy? Yeah, not a damn. And you know what? That's okay. You shouldn't be concerned about this class. You should be concerned about getting something to eat. You're starving to death slowly. Okay? But once you have your physiological needs met, you have food, you have water, you have warmth, you have shelter, you can move to the second stage, the second level. In this one, we have our safety needs. And this is the need to feel that the world is organized and predictable, and then that world is safe, secure, and stable. And there's a lot of different things that kind of fall into this safety category. But the best way that I can explain it is, again, if our goal is to do well in this class, but you're worried that you're going to be jumped on your way home from school, do you care about this class? Or are you going to be more concerned with being jumped on your way home? What's going to be weighing on your mind? Yeah, being jumped. Okay, so that is the next concern. If you're worried about that, if you're worried about what's going to happen to you once you get home, you're not going to care about this class. If, let's say, for example, your parents just lost their jobs, are you going to be concerned about this class? Should you be focused on this class? Or should you be focused on how can we survive the next couple of weeks and get through this? Okay. The proper answer is obviously you're going to be concerned with what's going to happen to me in 2 weeks. Am I still going to have a home in 2 weeks' time? She has a job. What do you mean, what's job? She has a job, right? Yes, a job. She's being slightly racist. All right. So that's level 2. Level 3. This is love and belongingness needs. The need to be loved, to feel loved, to belong, to be accepted. The need to avoid loneliness and alienation. Now, if you don't get this part, you're not going to die. Okay, if you don't get your physiological needs met, you're going to die. If you don't get your safety needs met, you could get seriously hurt. You possibly could die. But if you don't feel like you belong or that you are loved, you're not going to die. But is that a pleasant thing? I mean, take Alexa. What is she constantly complaining about?
A lot of things. What do you mean?
One of the things that you're most complaining about is the fact that you don't feel like you are loved and accepted because you don't have a boyfriend. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. You're at that level. That's what has eaten your entire life up. If you're able to move beyond that, you can get to the next level and then to the top of the pyramid and succeed in this class where you want to.
Are you trying to say
Oh
something?
my God.
I also complain about me waking up. I hate waking up.
Okay. So That love and belongingness, okay, that feeling like you actually belong to something. This is where we as the educators start coming in, because there's little that I can do about your physiological needs. If you're not having your physiological needs met, I can kind of point you in the direction and say, here's where you can get some help. But I can't physically do that. I don't have enough money to be able to feed you all. Sorry. Same with safety needs. I'll do the best that I can, but there's little that I can do to make sure that you're safe on your way home from school. I'm not going to walk you home. That would be crazy and weird and creepy. Okay? Okay. The fact is that this is where the teachers can start coming in and making a big difference. I want you to think about the classes where the teacher makes you feel like you are completely and utterly worthless, that you don't belong here. I don't know why you're here. You're too stupid to be here. Did you really succeed in that class? Did you bother to try your hardest? Exactly. That third level is really important, because if you don't open yourself as the teacher to the students, then you are never going to get your students to where you want them to be. Okay? The fourth level, this is where self-esteem comes in. Once you have that feeling of belonging, now you need to feel like you can achieve, that you're competent, that you are an independent person capable of doing that goal that you have set for yourself. It's that recognition and respect from others because you were capable of doing something. That comes from within. But again, your educator, your teacher has a part in that. Okay? Your teacher has a part in that. The last stage, the fifth level, is self-actualization. And this is where you are all of the you that you can be. You have reached peak you. Now, this is why, and here's a little educational philosophy from me, this is why I don't like this competition that we've turned grades into. Well, my score was this. Well, my score was this. Guess what? That's meaningless. And it's meaningless because maybe the most you that you can be is getting to the C. You got a C on that test. Good job. You've never gotten a C before. On any test, you got a C. Congratulations. And I don't want people to be putting people down because, well, I got an A. This person's an idiot. They only got a C. That's ridiculous. You have a different peak you than the other person does. So don't compare yourself to them. That's why I really hate turning education into a competition. It shouldn't be. All it is you being a better you than you were yesterday. So let me explain to you how I have used Maslow's hierarchy in the past. And I try to do this every single year. Every single year, I try to make sure that this happens. Okay. And for those of you who have been in my actual classroom, you can understand some of the things that I do. Okay. Because you've seen it. Okay. Many years ago, we used to give an end of the year test called the CST. You probably took one or two of them, and then they just stopped one year. Thank God. They were a gigantic waste of time, energy, and money. Anyway, the fact is that every single year I had to try to convince a group of high school juniors that a test that had no impact on them in the slightest was important enough to try their best on. Hard to do, okay? But I would do it in a very systematic way. Number one, on the day of the test, in order to make sure that the physiological needs of my students were met, on the day of the U.S. history test, I brought granola bars and juice boxes for every single student of mine in a U.S. history class. I said, if you've already eaten, then fine, you can save it for later. If you haven't eaten, please eat. Because if you don't have that and you're hungry, you're not going to do your best on that test. You're not going to reach this level because you haven't gotten past the physiological needs. I can't do it for every single test. I haven't got that kind of money. Okay. For the AP test, yeah, that was a different story. But, you know, we did that from home last year, so I couldn't do that. Okay. So I tried to make sure that the physiological needs are met. I also made sure that my students understood that at no time were they not allowed to go to the bathroom during the test. That's something that totally baffles me, because one of you even mentioned it. I got to go to the bathroom. Freaking go! I'm recording this in case you want to catch what you missed. Feel free to go to the bathroom. I would rather you focus on what I'm saying than focus on, oh, God, it's a little squidgy. Oh, got a turtle head poking out. I don't want you focused on that. Go to the bathroom. For God's sakes, go. Okay? If you're taking the test, you get to go to the bathroom. And if that teacher, that proctor says, no, you can't go to the bathroom. You call Mr. Mack. He'll tell you I get to go to the bathroom. Go ahead. He'll take time out of his class to do that. And I made sure that my students understood that, because I want their physiological needs met. Second stage, safety. From day one in my class, I want to make sure that my students feel safe inside the confines of my four walls. Okay? That means I don't stand for people coming into my classroom and yelling and screaming. That's unacceptable. If you don't feel safe, and you know this, if you don't feel safe, you can talk to me and we will make it happen. Whatever it is, if someone's threatening you, if anything is happening, all you have to do is say the word, I don't feel safe. All right, let's do this. What do I need to do? How do we make you feel safe? What's going on? Tell me about it, please. I need to understand. When we have, the shooter drills in my classroom, yeah, I make sure that door is locked. Even though it's a hot pile of garbage, that door sucks. And the fact that I haven't put a key in that door since August means that door is probably going to be real crappy. Okay? But absolutely nothing is going to get through that door without my say-so. And I have a 2x4 to help me. I call it my Board of Education. You got a problem? And if a person that I don't know comes into my classroom and starts making threats to you, I get the Board of Education. I'm not playing. Get the hell out of my classroom. Don't ever come back. You got to get that safety need met. That brings us to step number 3. that belongingness, that love need. And this is something that is hard to do, but hopefully you figured this out by now. The fact that I genuinely care about you as a human being, not just a student in my class, but as an actual person, and will do whatever I can to help you whenever I can. Hopefully you've gotten that by now. And I know it's hard on a screen, but I do genuinely want you to succeed to whatever level you want to succeed. I can't push you to go further than you want to go, because that's just going to wear me out. And I haven't got that kind of energy. If you want to get to a C, I will get you to a C. I will help you to get to a C. You want to get an A? I will help you to get to an A. Okay? But you've got to do some of the work too. Okay? Never mind. I don't want to do any work. That's fine. I don't care. But I want you to succeed to the level that you want. You want to get to college? All right, let's talk about it. How are we going to get you there? Yeah, I'm not a counselor. Yeah, I probably will end up saying at some point, you probably should talk to your counselor about this, because I don't know anything about this. But talk to me about it. I'll give you whatever suggestions I can. That leads to self-esteem. And I can't do anything about self-esteem except when people start bullying. Bullying is unacceptable. Now, I understand a gentle ribbing back and forth, okay? I do it to Alexa all the time. But I know that A, she can handle it, and B, that she knows that I'm not being serious. Because again, even Alexa, I genuinely care for her success.
Alexa's gonna cry.
Just like every single one of you. I care for your success. And I don't like it when people say things like, oh, I'm too stupid for this. No, you're not. This isn't that difficult. It is a challenge now, but we can work past it. It's about reframing the way you look at things so that you have the self-esteem necessary to get to that next stage. And that next stage is stage 5, being the best version of you that you can be. And that's why I do it every single day. That's why I'm a teacher. I want you to be the best version of you. I don't do it for the money. And I don't do it for the cars. And I don't do it for the women. I do it because I want you to be the best version of you. And every day we will make progress to make that happen. If I had a juice box to give to you, yeah, sure. In my classroom, in my actual physical classroom, I have a jug of water on a water cooler where
Just
you can
water?
get water. It's just water. You can bring your own flavorings. I don't care. But bring a cup, put it in there. I don't care. But that's for the students to use. You want some water? Here's water. We don't have running water in the classroom, and the nearest water fountain is gross. So I provide water. I provide a place for you to charge your phone. Why? Because I don't want you thinking about, oh my God, my phone's only 5%. I'm trying to get past that safety need. Okay? I'm always here. Yeah, he always drank the water. And you know what? I didn't mind. I will gladly refill the water. And before you freak out and go, well, are you filling it with a hose? A, no. B, if you want something better, get it yourself. And then C, no, it's filtered water. Cost me like 35 cents to fill it up. Actually, it was $1 and something. It's 35 cents a gallon. It was five gallons. Still, I fill it up, drink all the water you want or not. Just don't wash your hands with it. It's not a sink. Okay. For preparation for having to actually be around people again, I went out and I bought one of those automatic hand sanitizer dispenser things. So that's going to be in my classroom now. It's going to have a sign on it that says, sanitize your damn hands. Okay. Okay. So this is how I use Maslow's hierarchy of needs in my everyday life as a teacher. I'm always trying to make sure that the little things that can really haze up your thinking are removed. Because as soon as I can do that, it's a lot easier to get the work done. And it's a lot easier to think. And it's a lot easier to understand. And you can be the best version of yourself. All right. That having been said, that's where I'm going to stop for today because A, that's where we stopped second and third period.